All right, Pat, we're back again. Pat Richie of the Table Group and George Kriza, Challenging Decisions. We're going to have an interesting discussion this afternoon on the five temptations of a CEO. Uh, Again, it's a very seminal kind of work that gets to the deeply to the heart of what makes for an effective culture in an organization. And it helps us to understand the CEO's role in creating that culture. And the CEO is extraordinarily important in creating that culture. So there's a pyramid. We're not going to show a picture of the pyramid, but there's a pyramid of dysfunctions that Patrick Lencioni has come up with. And at the base of that pyramid, and in many ways, the most important thing that creates problems is in an organization is when a person at the top feels like they have to manifest invulnerability. So what does that mean in practice, Pat?
Well, what happens is when a CEO, oftentimes when they take over, they have this temptation to look like they're completely in control and they don't make mistakes. In fact, when that happens, it starts to lower trust in the organization, because when if you are concerned about always about being right and perfect all the time, you're gonna end up to never admitting when you're wrong or you're weak, and then others in the organization are going to emulate that behavior. You're gonna reap never-ending posturing inside the organization. And I've seen this many times, a CEO can't admit mistakes or weaknesses. They tend to throw other people under the bus. That's why people stop trusting each other. They know this is not an environment where that can happen, and people start to posture. They start to position themselves. Politics becomes rampant right off the bat, and you'll have what I say is there's CYA, because blood in the water means death. Once one person admits their mistake on that executive team, everybody will come after him. And it starts right there with that leader, because they can't admit their mistakes and weaknesses.
I'm going to share a little story with you that I've never told you before, but I was a CEO of MTC Performance, which you see over here, Inc. 500 company. And right around the time we qualified for the Inc. 500 with, by the way, it was 473% growth in 3 years. We had a junior member of our team approach myself, and what he didn't actually have the title executive vice president, but he may as well have been. There were two of us really running the company at that point in time. And much to our surprise, because we thought we had everything hunky-dory, he came to us and he says, I'd like to do a presentation to you about why MTC is a toxic organization.
Mm. Wow.
And I thought to myself, well, you're taken aback by that. There's no two ways about it. But I thought to myself, we need to listen to him. And so myself and the executive VP allowed him to come in. He put together a beautiful PowerPoint, and we sat there for 45 minutes and allowed him to present to just the two of us, and tried to understand how we were complicit in somehow creating a toxic organization. And I think this is one of the learnings from the book, is that CEOs are often absolutely blind as to the culture that they're creating with their own behavior.
Absolutely. And what a great favor that this young person had done you. I've seen this in many, if I told you the companies, you'd be blown away how well known these companies are. And the CEO will tell a very similar story. Somebody more junior in the organization will come forward, maybe not even a direct report, and say, look, I think the book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, is worth a read for you, or this is what's going on inside the organization. And so in turn, what CEOs need to do is they have to learn how to trust their team with their own reputation and their ego. Because remember, trust is vulnerability-based trust that we talk about at the very base of all teams in the five dysfunctions of a team. The CEO's got to be able to trust, and if she can't trust her direct reports with her reputation and her ego, she's probably in a lot of trouble already. And then secondly, boy, just like you said, George, you want to encourage your people to challenge your ideas, whether that be the idea of how healthy the organization is today or how the executive team. When you encourage others to challenge your idea, you will only get sharper and sharper. And that vulnerability, now remember, the temptation is invulnerability. That vulnerability will start to build a really solid foundation of trust.
Thank you. And I wonder if you have any thoughts you'd like to share about why CEOs tend to have this problem.
Well, you probably climb the ladder of success and you get there and you go, all right, now there's a certain status, and we'll talk about that later. There's a certain position that I've got to get to, and now I've got to really look. And they often abandon even what got them to the top. I mean, I can tell you there's one NFL head coach who, terrific guy, but the moment he became a head coach, he became a different person. And his players, he lost his team in the first year or two. And now he starts acting like somebody he never really was. And that loss of authenticity and being vulnerable and being open with your people, people see that. The people around you are not dumb around what's going on with their leader. They examine leaders all the time. And one of the things they're looking for is not perfection, but they're looking for somebody that can be trusted.
Understood. And how important. It's absolutely critical to the success of the organization. So I guess in a nutshell, CEOs should not lead with their ego.
No, do not lead. Many have, and as many have failed.
All right. Well, that's a great start for our discussion. Let's call it right here. And in a minute or two, we'll come right back with the next temptation.